Hello, BookTube, and welcome to another weekly reading vlog. These are the books that I've been reading this week. So I'll start with Tides of War. I read slightly over 100 pages this week. I had been on page 270. I read up to page 386, and you can see by where my bookmark is placed here that I am just about done with this book. There's a total of 400 and, not counting the glossary, 416 pages. So I've got about 30 pages left. So unless something goes horribly wrong, I should finish this up sometime this week, and we'll review it this week. I've finding the second half of this book a bit more interesting than the first half. It gets a little bit more gets a little bit more into the political aspects of the Peloponnesian War. I did read a few reviews of this book on Amazon and Goodreads that said this book likely won't make a lot of sense without any background on the Peloponnesian War. And the more I get into it, the more I think I have to agree with this. This book was not written for the casual reader. This book is assuming somebody already has some background with the Peloponnesian War. Fortunately, I do. Last year I read The Peloponnesian War by Donald Kagan and reviewed it on this channel. But there's just so much stuff that's not really explained in here that if I didn't have that background, I think I might be completely lost in parts of this book. Nonetheless, interesting. I'm glad I've read it. I should stop talking now. I'm going into all the stuff that I should be saying when I review this book properly, which I do hope to do sometime this week. And then the Bible. So last week I had just finished the book of Ruth, but had not yet reviewed it the time I did my weekly reading vlog. Then right after doing the weekly reading vlog, I filmed my review of Ruth. And now I'm on 1 Samuel, which is the start of the King David story. Although David himself has not entered the narrative. David does not come in until 1 Samuel 16. I'm up to 1 Samuel 12. So first it's the story of Samuel himself, and then King Saul. I'm just at the introduction of King Saul. So the King David epic is my favorite part of the Bible. I've talked about it actually a few times on this channel before in previous reviews. But it's been like 30 years since I actually sat down and read through the Bible itself, cover to cover. So I mentioned when I was reviewing the book of Judges that Judges does not really read like a story, or at least like our modern expectations of the story. It's a whole bunch of things that happened with no explanation of why anything was happening, the book of Judges. So far, I'm finding 1 Samuel to be a different narrative tone, though. 1 Samuel is slowing down. We're spending more time with the characters. We're getting more explanations of why they're doing the things they're doing. And we also have like a lot of narrative details. Like, for example, when messenger walks in to tell Eli that his sons are dead. It says, a Benjamite ran from the battle line, reaching Shiloh that day, his clothes torn and dust on his head. When he arrived, Eli was there, sitting on his seat beside the gate, watching the road, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. This man then came to the town, bringing news, whereupon cries filled the town. Eli heard the uproar and asked, what does this great outcry mean? The man made haste and told Eli. Eli was 98 years old. His gaze was fixed. He was blind. etc. So it's actually telling a proper story instead of just a bunch of random things that happened, which is was the experience of a lot of the book of Judges. There are, in the first 12 chapters, any number of interesting little things we can talk about and interesting rabbit holes. I'm going to assume, for the sake of discussion, that maybe most people watching this video are already vaguely familiar with the story of Samuel and Saul from Sunday school and whatnot. But, yeah, just interesting things. For example, after Eli's son dies, it talks about how his wife, when she gets the news, the wife of Phineas, one of Eli's sons, she gets the news. Actually, maybe I should just read that. Now his daughter-in-law, the wife of Phineas, was with child and near her time. When she heard the news that the ark of God had been captured and that her father-in-law and husband were dead, she crouched down and gave birth, for her labor pains came on. When she was at the point of death, the woman standing round her said, "Do not be afraid, you have given birth to a son." But she did not answer and took no notice. She named the boy Ichabod, saying, "The glory has gone from Israel," thinking of her father-in-law and husband and the capture of the ark of God. She said, "The glory has gone from Israel because the ark of God has been captured." And then she dies. Now that's an odd little detail to throw in. Now, granted, the Bible is full of all these odd little details that are thrown in. So, to a certain extent, it's just the experience of reading the Bible. But, I mean, it sounds like it's the origin story of someone who's going to go on to become important. But I didn't remember any Ichabod from my Sunday school days. So, of course, I Googled it and went to Wikipedia. And Wikipedia does support what I suspected, that there is a theory that Ichabod at one point was a much more prominent figure. He's mentioned, Ichabod is mentioned later in the Bible as the brother of the high priest. Or rather, the high priest is mentioned as Ichabod's brother. So the fact that they're identifying the high priest as the brother of Ichabod instead of the son of Phineas means that Ichabod must have been a more prominent character, maybe had one time in history more stories associated with him. And of course, all of those are lost to history. So we just get his dramatic birth here in 1 Samuel, and then the rest of it is just lost tradition. But those kind of things, yeah, it's an example of the various wormholes you can fall into when reading through the Bible. I'm into the part now where the Israelites are asking for a king, and Samuel anoints Saul. And there are two different accounts of how Saul gets anointed king, which is typical of the whole rest of 1 Samuel. Everything happens twice because the editor is drawing on various materials, and whenever he comes across two versions of the same thing happening, he includes them both. But the footnotes of the Jerusalem Bible are interesting. They say there's two versions of this episode in history. One is the royalist version, and one is the anti-royalist version. So, and of course, once they said that, and they even go and say which verses are from which version. So once they say that, it's really easy to pick out. In one version, you've got a whole bunch of verses where the people are asking Samuel for a king. And Samuel said, "You don't want a king. Kings are the worst. They're just going to take all your stuff, and they're not going to give you anything." And it's this really interesting kind of almost anarchist sentiment in the Bible. I mean, you can see Mikhail Bakunin or Peter Kropotkin, the famous Russian anarchist, nodding along with this as Samuel is detailing all the ways that the kings are not going to help you at all. They're just going to take from you and oppress you. But then, a couple of chapters later, we get Samuel saying, okay, Israel is really getting oppressed by her enemies. We need some sort of king to deliver her. And so in this version, Samuel is actually going out and seeking a king because Israel is being so oppressed by the other Canaanite nations. So yeah, I mean, the Jerusalem Bible helped me notice this, but clear as day, you can see those two different versions there. So yeah, just a lot of interesting things that I never realized back when I was in Sunday school, but I'm picking up on more now as I'm making my way through this story, and I'm enjoying this now. This is my favorite story arc in the Bible, is the King David story arc. And then the comic book Finn. There's no page numbers in this edition, but I think I'm roughly halfway through, maybe a little less than halfway through. Like I've said before, I picked this up because a coworker lent it to me, but I know nothing about this comic. It was published in Britain in the 1990s. I don't think it was ever popular in the US. I'm finding it readable, but not magical. I'm not getting sucked into it, but readable. And I don't know. It's a comic book, so I shouldn't be spending too long on it. Hope to spend some time on this and finish this off maybe within the next week. Finish off this week. I could probably do that. And that's been my reading for this week. So thank you very much, BookTube, and I will see you next time.